Well, welcome back to the Digital Foyer. My name is Father Isaac.
Now, Father Dan.
Father Dan, good to be back with all of you. And Father Dan, you're a young guy. You're in your 30s. You're a priest. What are some of the reactions that people give you when they find out that you're a priest?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are a bit surprised to see some young priests in the parish. Maybe I'll share a most recent story. I just the other day I was talking to a guy that needed to fill out some forms for some sacramental stuff, but I was talking to him on the phone, and he came to the parish, and when I opened the door, he was quite taken aback to see me. And as I was kind of going through the form with him, I noticed that he was a bit distracted. He was kind of just looking at me while I was going through the form, and then when I looked up at him, I'm like, "Is everything okay?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm just not used to seeing a young priest. I thought I was going to meet an old guy." So I think a lot of people, they're pretty surprised when they see priests that are young like us.
Yeah, it must have been because over the phone you were just pouring out so much wisdom that he assumed it must be coming from a much older man.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, it's funny. Like some friends, we were in a group chat and they were using AI to make a photo of all of us for the group chat. And no matter how many times they prompted into AI, and I know nothing about AI. Like I had no idea what they were doing exactly. It's all magic to me as far as I'm concerned. But they were putting in prompts like young priest. And like 5 times in a row was just this old priest, kind of big beard, gray hair. And then eventually they were like, no, we want a young priest. And they literally, the picture was all of us, but my head had been removed. It was like AI thought it would be better to have a beheaded priest than a young priest. It just doesn't fit. So yeah. I think it's part of the cultural view of priesthood, but I guess all old priests started out young at some point. We're going to be old priests one day, eventually.
Yeah, that's what I say. Every old priest was young at one point. We were younger at some point, and we were seminarians at one point who weren't priests yet. And so I think that's important to remember. And actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you and I have been doing in order to promote some vocations here at the parish?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, part of being a church that is explosively alive is we assume that people are finding their vocations, what God is calling them to do. And that means that there are going to be young men who are discerning, is God calling me to be a priest? And when Father Dan and I were seminarians, or even before that rather, when we were just young, ordinary guys before priesthood, we had to think about this. Is God calling me to this? And someone had to help us do that. And so Father Dan and I, we've been doing different things to try and help young guys discern their vocation. And why is that important, Father Dan? Like, why is it important for priests to be able to do stuff like that? Why is it important for a parish to have this awareness?
Yeah, I think on one level, as priests, it really is part of our vocation to promote more vocations to the priesthood. In the same way that I would say probably married couples are meant to talk about and promote the beauty of that vocation, it's part of us being priests to be calling forth men who might be called to be a priest. And for a parish, like Father Isaac mentioned, like one of the fruits of an explosively alive parish are men coming to discern the priesthood and becoming priests. And so really it's our responsibility as a whole parish, as an entire church, to be promoting vocations. And as we know, in the Catholic Church, no priests, there's no sacraments, right? So really, priesthood is for specific men, but it benefits everybody. And
we've been kind of taking like a two-pronged approach to this, two-tiered approach. And so one of the approaches that I've been taking is kind of the first level, and it's just building relationships with some of the young guys here at the parish, specifically through going on hikes, trying to take guys on hikes every once in a while. And there's a bunch of different reasons for this, to get them off screens, because nature is beautiful and it's fun to go and do something together, and just to be able to see the guys becoming better friends with each other. Like, I don't know, it's really, and I just love hiking. So it's kind of a selfish pursuit as well. I get to have people to go hiking with me.
Nice.
But then at the same time, because you're just walking out in nature, you're away from your phones, you're away from technology, you start talking about things, and you start talking about what guys are looking for in life and what their hopes are. And sometimes vocations pop up, like, what is God calling me to do? And so if a guy is willing to have that conversation and say, hey, I think maybe God might be calling me to be a priest, I don't really know. It's at that moment where I can have that initial conversation, and then ideally pass them to you, Father Dan, to introduce them to you and plug them into what you've got going on.
Right. So actually, in conjunction with what Father Isaac has been doing, I've started a priestly discernment group. Basically, we get together, we eat chips, and we talk about life. So my favorite things to do. No, but it's a little bit more than that. What I've started is a monthly meeting, kind of almost like a life group of sorts, with men who are thinking about the priesthood. And it's a mixed bag of men, some who are just for the very first time asking the question about the priesthood, other men on the opposite end of the spectrum who are thinking, you know what, I might actually be called to enter seminary very soon. And so meeting monthly, chance to connect together, just to catch up, share some highs and lows of life. And then we usually have some sort of grow portion. We've been working through a book on the priesthood, on the religious life. And we just sit around, we talk about some of the insights from the book, but oftentimes that becomes a springboard for just asking questions about what discernment is like, what's life as a priest like. And I'm there to really share my experience with the guys who are thinking about whether this is the call for their life. And then we usually end with some sort of prayer. The last few times we've prayed Liturgy of the Hours together to end the evening. We've had a time of adoration. And really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make it normal. Make it normal for men to be talking about the priesthood, to be asking that question, make it a normal part of our parish, for priesthood and vocations to be something that we're always talking about, always promoting. And that way men who do feel like there's a bit of a nudge in their heart, they feel comfortable and they feel like they have a place to go to really wrestle with these questions.
Yeah, I would have loved something like that when I was discerning, because I found I just had all these questions and I didn't really know where to go, and I felt very much alone because no one else I really knew was discerning. Right. So I would have loved something like this. You mentioned eating chips. Do you indeed have ketchup chips there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, if I didn't have ketchup chips, I would cancel the meeting.
Yeah. I mean,
as necessary.
Other people's vocations, I mean, who cares if there's not ketchup chips there? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And one funny thing, so I've been meeting monthly, and we're getting into February here. I decided to set our meeting this month on the 14th, right? So February 14th. Valentine's Day. I figured if you're part of this group, you probably don't have plans. So that'd be a perfect day to get together. So that's when our monthly meeting is this month.
I didn't even recognize the date. I have not celebrated Valentine's Day for a long time, which I'm very much okay with.
Good.
Well, what would you say, like, if a guy's watching this who's maybe interested in the priesthood, or maybe someone who's watching this that you know someone, like, what would you say, like, how should they discern that? How should they get in touch with people? Like, is there anything you would point them to?
Yeah, I would say a very first step is introduce yourself to us, to the priest. Like, we love talking with guys
say hi.
Who have questions. And don't worry, that doesn't mean you're signing your life away, doesn't mean you're going to become a priest. You're just introducing yourself, wanting to connect. I think that's a really good first step. And especially if some of the stuff we've been talking about, you're interested in the hiking group or in this more formal group, introduce yourself to Father Isaac and myself, and we'd love to get you connected. It's always a good first step. And then these groups kind of will help you kind of go on that journey, wherever the Lord will lead you in that journey.
Absolutely. And just as a final note, to any of the guys who go hiking with me and you're watching this, I am not signing your life away to be a priest. Just so you know, if you're not called to priesthood, you can still hike with me. But I am thinking about it, and you should too. But anyways, it was great being on with you again, and we will see you all soon.
God bless.